Hello, Harvest. Welcome to another episode of the State of the Church podcast. I'm here with Pastor Terry as we're going to talk about things going on in our church. We're going to talk about what God's doing in the heart of our pastor. And we're going to talk about some culture things and life updates for us as a church. So, Pastor Terry, what's up, man? Welcome to another episode here.
Thank you. Looking forward to this. This is always fun to do. We're coming off a great month.
That's right. Great month as in it's summer and nobody's here. No,
great month within it's summer and
everybody's out in the lake.
All of our activities that we've had planned have been rained out so far. But we had 8 baptisms.
Let's go, man.
That was an awesome Sunday.
It was. Just as a reminder for those watching and listening that we record these before the end of the month. So we're recording July's podcast in June.
Right.
And so here in June, we had just had a baptism weekend here in the house, and it was a beautiful weekend.
Yeah.
8 folks in our church and just professed their faith in Jesus Christ publicly, and it was a really beautiful time together. And so that's something I'm for sure still celebrating. I know you are as well. And there's lots of things to celebrate that God's been doing in the house this summer. So I like to just joke around because
we've had a lot of rain.
We've had a lot of rain. We have a lot of people on vacation, and so everything gets thrown up in the air here in the summertime. But with that, what's God been teaching you this summer, man? What's God been doing in your heart and in your life and in your family? And just kind of give us a little bit of an update on what's going on in your world.
Yeah, I think just kind of focus on some of the things that I've gone through, something that I think a lot of us are going through, as we're filming this. There's still a lot of things going on in the Middle East, a lot of questions about what's going on. Even in the church, people are constantly asking questions about where does this fit in, eschatology, end days study. So, is this the end days? And there's the reality is we've never been closer to the return of Christ than we are right now, right? And so a lot of things in the history of some of our lifetimes has had to take place for us to really be in a place where, we could say, Christ really could be coming at any time. The reality is none of us know when he's coming. We can look to the things that are happening and see some similarities between some of the things that are in the scriptures.
Right.
But what we do know is that we are called to be prepared for him when he does come. So a few weeks ago I used, from today, I used an illustration, a parable that Jesus told in Luke chapter 12, where he talks about a master that goes away and he leaves one of his servants in charge of everything that he owns. Well, it ends up that the master goes away for a long time. And so the story being that, eventually the servant who's heading up the master's household, he stops doing the will of the master. He starts abusing the other servants. He starts kind of just focusing on himself. And the moral behind the story is eventually that master is coming again, and if he finds the servant not doing his will, it's not going to go well for that servant, right? And so the whole point behind the story is that we're supposed to be prepared for when the master returns, right? So no matter what your belief of end times doctrine or theology is, one thing we can all agree on is God has called us to a work as Christ followers. I'm not talking about, pastors and, that kind of thing. As those who follow Christ, God has a work for us to be doing.
Right.
And when he does come back, he better be finding us at the work, right?
Yeah, right.
And so it's just kind of a fresh reminder of how important it is that we are doing the work of spreading the gospel, loving on people, building up disciples, and making sure that people are prepared for that time when he does come again, whenever that might be.
Right. It's a sobering reminder for all of us.
Yeah.
Not something to be afraid of, but something to be mindful of, right?
Right.
Stewardship is not like just letting go of things, but holding things carefully, right? And with like intentionality, right? That's like one of my new favorite words these days, it feels like, because I say it a lot, intentionality, right? Because I'm learning to be more intentional with how I spend my time and how I, how I carve my life, right, with the Lord, and how I steward my life with the Lord. And so this is just a reminder of like, hey, let's be good stewards of the time that we have and the things and the people that God's given us and the time that we have. So thank you for sharing that with us today, Pastor Terry. As we kind of just change gears here, we're going to talk a little bit about some ministry updates. and what's going on in the life of our church. Like we've been joking about already today, there's a lot going on, but then there's also a lot up in the air this summer, and there's been a lot of crazy this summer.
Sure.
With weather and different things, with people on vacation and lots of life things happening. So with that, just let's kind of talk to us a little bit about what's going on in ministries right now and give our folks a bit of an update.
Sure. Well, we've got events that we have planned throughout the summer where we're really trying to reach out into our community, show show the love of Christ. And
right. We're doing stuff like Thursdays on Main and
Thursdays on Main,
Party in the Park, and we got some stuff coming up in August with Back to School. But we just did the first Thursdays on Main like a couple weeks ago. And we took the last week off. But man, it was a great time to see so many folks out and about, and it was a great opportunity to do some street ministry with people, and just connect with people in ways that we don't normally get to, right? We have all sorts of material that we get to hand out for folks, and I love the cards that we got, like with their invite cards. On one side it says just come have a cup of coffee with us. We'd love to connect with you more, right? And it's got a contact information on it, and it's got a QR code with our website, and just it's a great tool for folks who volunteer to be able to be at the booth out Thursdays on Main, to be able to connect with just people in the community in ways that we don't normally get to, right? So
Face
I've been
painting
loving that.
for the kids, some other things. We got the You Are Loved bracelets to hand out.
Little fun things like that. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you sign up. I know we still got some space for folks to sign up and volunteer.
A little bit, not a whole lot left on
both for Thursdays on Main and for some of the other stuff that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But
Party in the Park for sure. That's coming up July 15th. June's unfortunately was rained out. So hopefully July's will be a nice, bright, sunny day, and we'll be able to kind of love on our community there. So come on out to that. July 15th is the date on that one, and then Thursdays on Main, we're going to continue every other week except for that July 15th week. So the same week that we do Party in the Park, we're taking that Thursdays on Main off. But otherwise, come on out and get an opportunity to just kind of see our people doing the work of the ministry out in the community. For us, that's probably the best part about those two events. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're loving those.
So talk to us a little bit about what we got for updates here.
Sure. Well, as we continue throughout the summer, a lot of activities are going on, and some activities have kind of slowed down a little bit. So first of all, let's start with our kids ministry. Our kids ministry is continuing on every Sunday. Right now, they are, this month, going to be diving into the work of the Holy Spirit. And so they're kind of answering the question, how does God change us? And so as they're going through it, it's how does the Spirit change us? So that will be a great study into the Holy Spirit. Is something that churches, oftentimes avoid because it can be kind of a little hard for people to understand.
There's a lot of layers to it.
But what we've learned with our kids is our kids are way more capable to understand some of the deeper things of the Scriptures than we give them credit for. And so
that's great.
This will be a great time for the kids. It's a great training. So
that's great.
Looking forward to that. Of course, Bible Builders is still off for the summer, but our youth group is meeting. So we meet every Wednesday. Right now we're going through the book of Romans, so kind of taking a deep dive for that. We had our first kids camp in the month of June.
That's right.
And kids were loving that. So there's 2 camps this summer. The first one, June, let's see, what do we have here? June 23rd through the 27th.
Right.
And they're answering the question, who is God?
Right.
And then the second one is July 21st to the 25th. And in that one, they're asking or answering the question, who does God say that I am?
Yeah, right.
So, which is becoming more and more important in the culture that we have these days.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I love that. Between, taking an approach to where we're breaking it up instead of just doing like a solid block in the summertime when, again, going back to like culture here in Clear Lake, everybody's got a million things going on.
Yeah.
But how do we, that's something I've been learning. I'll just kind of interject here quickly. So like we're taking Thursday night rehearsals for worship team off over the summer because, when I first came here like a year ago, I was like, all right, we gotta, which again, culture's important, right?
Right, sure.
Like what we do in the house is important and it's serious. We need to take this seriously, right? But at the same time, like, what's just helpful, right?
Yeah, sure.
So at the end of the day, like, as pastors, like, we need to be thinking about, like, all right, what's the best way to, like, serve our community, but it's also helpful for, like, our people to be able to go serve and to do the work, right?
Yeah.
The Apostle Paul, I think, no, maybe it was Peter, right? He said, a pastor's job is to equip the saints for the work of ministry, right? And so how do we, best equip our people to do the work, right? And so there's could be seasons of ministry where things are could be a little more intense, and some seasons where they're not quite as intense, right? And so how do we ebb and flow and be helpful with our people, right? And so, I think this is another way that we've been processing, like, how do we be helpful with, like, kids ministry and outreach and stuff with kids ministry, instead of doing, like, a solid block VBS of 2 weeks or whatever, like, maybe a little more traditional. This year we're kind of trying it out, of, like, breaking it up over 2 months, a week each month, and I think it's been going really well so far. So excited for what God's doing in our house. So what else we got going on? I know we got Harvest Kids Summer Camp that we just talked about, and then let's chat a little bit about groups. I know we're taking a little bit of a break from men's and women's groups here over the summer.
Yeah.
And then we still got small groups going. There's a group that meets on Sunday night. We got another one, I think, on Tuesday night, right? Remind me the nights.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember them off.
Well, normally we have Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Sundays. So I guess I could start it with Sunday. So Sunday through Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we have a men's and women's group that meets Saturday morning. So
that's right.
The Saturday morning men's and women's group is taking the summer off, especially with some of the other things that we have going on, events and stuff throughout the winter. And then some of the small groups are still meeting. A couple of them for sure are meeting, and then a couple of them have taken the summer off.
Right.
Or they may just be meeting like once a month, just kind of reconnect throughout the summer.
So if you're not in a small group and you'd like to be in a small group, come grab me or grab Pastor Terry or grab Catherine, our ministries director, and we would love to get you connected with what's happening in the life of our small groups here over the summer. Being in community is important, so I want to encourage you, if you're not in a small group, please connect with one of us, and we'll make sure that you're taken care of and plugged in well and in community this summer. What else we got going on, Pastor Terry?
Yeah, I would just say, Table Songs has a lot of stuff going on, which I want to have you talk about here in a second. But before we do, let me just kind of finish off our ministry section by saying, the summers are busy. And so remember, of course, that we're still to be about the work in the summer, just as much as we are in the winter. But people are taking vacations and that kind of stuff, which really kind of helps us identify the fact that, there's some areas in our church where we still need more volunteers, especially in the kids department. And so, if you're wanting to kind of help build the future of our church and the next generation of our country, we'd love to kind of have you reach out and ask some questions about what it would be like to serve with our kids. So I think that's probably our biggest area, but we have all kinds of areas. Some of the areas in the church we have opened up where you can serve and you don't have to be a member.
Yeah, so things like greeting and hospitality and production.
Right.
There's definitely some room there to serve. If you're looking for a place to serve, just come talk to myself or Pastor Terry or Miss Catherine, our ministry director, and we would just love to get you plugged in. There's lots of ways to get plugged in, and part of our worship, walk, work, and witness, right? And so part of our culture here at Harvest is to work for Christ. Just as much as we walk with Christ and we worship Christ and we witness for Christ, part of that is working for Christ. And so what is an area of ministry that God has called you to, that has gifted you to, that maybe you don't even realize yet? Just come and chat with myself or Pastor Terry and Miss Catherine. We'd love to talk with you about that and help you discern what is it that God's given you as a gifting to best serve in the local church here at Harvest Bible Chapel. So we'd love to chat with you more about that. But I do know we have some needs in a few different areas specifically, such as kids ministry.
We'll always have areas of need when it comes to volunteers, so we'd love to reach out. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about what's going on with Table Songs.
Yeah, Table Songs is one of the ministries of our church here at Harvest Bible Chapel. It's kind of an outreach arm, if you will, that we do stuff here locally in the house for worship leaders and songwriters, but we also do stuff around the country with worship leaders and songwriters. We were just in Nashville, Tennessee, and doing a lot of work there. And we got some events that we have coming up in Michigan and New Orleans and a few other things that we're working on. We're doing monthly gatherings in Nashville, Tennessee through the end of this year that we're working on, which has been really exciting. We've had such amazing feedback from folks already from the stuff that we've been doing in Nashville. It's been really cool to watch God at work in that, God doing a work in our team and through our team. It's been really beautiful. Again, our team is not just folks here at our church, but we have a few folks like Holly and Kristen and a few other folks who are really plugged into being a part of the team for Table Songs here at our church. But then we also have like 17 other people who are like all across the country,
all different states,
who are part of the core team of this ministry that are serving and encouraging and equipping worship leaders and songwriters around the country. So just lots going on with that. I would encourage you guys to please be praying for us for wisdom and discernment on what are the right things to be saying yes to in this season, because there's a lot of doors opening up and there's a lot of opportunities, but we want to make sure we're saying yes to the right things and stewarding people and relationships well and doing what God has called us to do as a ministry well. Just because there's an opportunity to do something doesn't mean that's what the Lord's calling us to. I believe there is an old Oswald Chambers quote that says, "Good is the enemy of the best," right? And that's something that's kind of been sticking in my mind a lot in this season, is like, all right, just because you have the opportunity to do a good thing doesn't mean that's the thing that God's calling you to do is the best thing, right? I think of when the Apostle Paul says to Timothy, I believe, right, fight the good fight, right? There's always a fight to have, right? There's always something to do in the kingdom of God, but like, what is it that God's called you to do specifically, right? And so there's some other layers to that as well that we could get into, but just kind of do a quick pass over that. I believe that not just for Table Songs and for our church, but for us as individuals, we need to be constantly thinking about stewardship. Going back to those things that you were talking about earlier in our conversation, like, are we going about the work of the gospel? Are we stewarding our time well? Are we stewarding our resources well? Are we stewarding things well? Right. And so that's just something I'll just ask our church to be praying for as we discern those things as we go down the road. So that's a brief update for what's happening with Table Songs. If you have any questions about it, feel free to grab me, Pastor Terry, or again, Catherine, our ministry director. I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you have.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to think Table Songs is a ministry of our church, but because of how spread out it is and the impact it's having in other churches and ministries, or even maybe Bible schools, that kind of thing, it also operates really as a kind of a missions tool for us.
Yeah, right.
So it's a way for us to have an impact on the church in our country right now, at least on our country, maybe worldwide sometime.
Right.
So it's it's a great way for us to do the work throughout the country. So the Bible calls for us to reach our local area and to reach the area around our local area, and then our nation, and then the world, right? And this is a great way for us to have an impact on the church across our country. So.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move into the state of the church aspect of our time today.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about what we got coming up and things that are going on, like in a little bit more of the business and cultural side of things at our church.
Yeah. So we've already talked about some of them, just because we got
ahead of ourselves.
We got ahead of ourselves here a little bit, and we were reflecting on the weather. My kid told me yesterday, "Dad, I know you're getting old because you're talking about the weather quite a bit more." And so,
oh man,
when it impacts our ministry a little bit, we've been talking about it.
I mean, you are Grandpa Terry. So.
Yeah. So Party in the Park, July 15th. We are expecting that to go well. You should sign up to be able to dunk the pastors.
That's right.
So,
we're going to dunk Pastor Terry
Eric
as much
in particular.
as possible.
It's going to be. I'm just thinking if we were to keep track. I bet I can convince more people to try to dunk you.
I'm pretty sure people would dunk you more.
So we'll have a great time with that.
It'll be great.
In August, instead of having Party in the Park, we'll be having what we're calling Back to School Bash.
That's right.
So that is August 20th. Now, the Back to School Bash will actually be right here on our property.
Let's go.
And will be maybe even a little bit bigger than what our normal Party in the Park is. So we'll have a few more things going on around here. Some more details we'll get out here next month. But I think those are the two big ones. Thursdays on Main. Again, why are we doing Thursdays on Main? So that we can really have those one-on-one conversations with people in our community and be able to love and support them, show that we have a great care for our community. Our sermon series, we're continuing. Actually, we should be by the end of, barring any changes, by the end of July, we should be finishing up the book of James.
That's great.
So we've been going through the book of James, a series called The Real Deal, where James challenges us to just show a real faith, where it's not just words, but we're backing up our words with the actions that we have.
Yeah, right.
All of which, of course, are supposed to come out of a heart that's worshiping and grateful and dedicated to the Lord.
Yeah, that's right.
And that series has really helped us continue our theme for the year, which is next steps. And so I think as many times as I can ask you, what are your next steps? Right? What are your next steps in your relationship with the Lord? So for some people, it may be salvation, or it may be small groups. Maybe it's becoming more of a disciple. Maybe it's learning how to pray, or learning how to teach, or, you know. Right. So that's the challenge to the church. What is your next step in your relationship with God? And so all of our sermon series throughout the year is all based around that. So that's what we're continuing on through the end of the year. We're excited about the feedback that we've had from people and some of the lives that we've seen changed. And so, that's amazing. It's a blessing.
I love that. Yeah, so a lot going on this summer, a lot of things to kind of be looking towards with the fall as well, and we'll get into that soon. But man, one of the things I'll just kind of like, as we kind of begin to wrap up, I'll just kind of share this, is like I'm learning a lot about like I mentioned already, you know, good is the enemy of the best, right? But with that, like, what does rest look like? You know, part of being a good follower of Jesus is knowing limits, knowing boundaries, and you know, in that, like, being reminded of who God is in your life. You know, like, there's a whole like theology around tithing that's connected to that too, of like dependence on the Lord. And but even like with your time, learning like, okay, you know, what does healthy rhythms with the Lord look like, right? And so I think a lot of times in our culture today, we have the tendency to push and to rush and to be doers, right? But you know, something that I'm being reminded of in this season is that, you know, like in the story of Mary and Martha, like Mary sat at the feet of Jesus and like ministered like to the heart of God first. Before doing anything else. And so what are we doing in our daily rhythms as a church, like as individuals of Harvest Bible Chapel, North Iowa, to like minister to the heart of God, or the way I like to say it, bless the heart of God, right? And I think that's something that, you know, I think is a good reminder for all of us to kind of contemplate as we go about the rest of our day here, as we wrap up our time on this podcast. So what are the ways that I'm blessing the heart of God in my individual life before anything else? What are the ways that I'm ministering to the heart of God before anything else in my everyday life? And so it's great to go out and do all the things in the summertime and be pulled in a million different directions, and have the kids doing a million things, but also find that time to go sit by the lake and just, you know, spend some time with the Lord, or like find a time in your rhythm every day to just spend some time with the Lord and just process with Him and be like, all right, Lord, what am I doing in my life that excites you and blesses your heart? And then let's be more intentional together to go about the everyday things with the Lord, right? The Apostle Paul says we are co-laborers with God. So what does that look like to be a co-laborer with God in our individual lives? Not just the things that we do here in the church on the Sunday. So things to think about, things to process through. But man, what an exciting time here in Clear Lake this summer. And look forward to jumping in again with you all again next month. But until then, remember that you are loved, and we'll see you again in the next episode.